I'd like to introduce now the MRS meeting chairs, and joining me now is Artur Braun and Ken Haenen. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me this morning. Let's talk about the MRS meeting. It's the technical symposia, and there's some trends and high points. Let's start with that, some of the trends and the high points that we'll be seeing.
Well, the program is again spread over 4 different clusters, and within these clusters you clearly see traditional topics coming back, but also a lot of new topics emerging. One to highlight is, for example, the trend that from graphene, which was very important a few years ago, you see more and more symposia appearing on 2D materials in general, with lots of materials in there. There's clearly a trend also to combine more and more inorganic with biomaterials. This can be for biosensors, this can also be, for example, artificial photosynthesis, just to name a topic. And you have more and more also symposia focusing on specific characterization techniques, which shows that many of these techniques become so specialist that research evolves around the technique itself almost, instead of applying it to certain material.
I know, as we were discussing before, solar energy is the big one, and how about we discuss that, Artur, the broader impacts in solar energy?
Solar energy has moved up. I mean, energy has been a topic for almost 2 decades with the MRS, and it has gained increasing importance, particularly electrochemical energy converters and storage devices, batteries, fuel cells, supercapacitors. Solar cells since a couple of years have moved up, and more recently solar water splitting for solar fuels has become very important. There are more and more symposia covering various aspects, scientific and technological aspects of this. So that's, I would say it almost has taken center stage at the MRS symposium, at least at the MRS spring meetings in the last couple of years.
As MRS meeting chairs, we were talking about the exhibitions and how this meeting represents a lot of inclusiveness and diversity in research and the people that come from all over the world. How about touch on that, Ken?
Yeah, I think it's really important. You see not only academic researchers, but also a lot of industrial research, but also industry itself is present in the exhibition, which is a good place to exchange ideas, people looking for new tools, new methodologies which might be available to solve certain problems which were outstanding for a couple of years.
And Artur, why did you volunteer for this role? Loaded question, huh?
I was caught off guard when I was asked
Really?
if I could serve as meeting chair. Now, I'm happy to do this. I think the first volunteering is that you decide to come to the MRS meeting and present your research and look what your colleagues are presenting. And over time, you find opportunities where become part of the organization, where you can suggest symposium topics, become a symposium organizer. That may be your first entrance ticket into the organization, and if you spend more time and more effort, if you become more enthusiastic about science and research, eventually you may find yourself in the position that Ken and me are in today, and I think we both enjoy it.
Yeah, I think some of the advice we were talking about to the attendees is taking advantage of those hallway discussions outside of the lectures and that networking that you can gather. Let's discuss that, just how critical that is this week.
I think it's very important. I mean, you sometimes hear ideas like, okay, with the internet these days, why can't we have virtual meetings? Everybody could sit behind his desk and just look at the presentations. Yes, that is a possibility, but most people will not do that due to lack of time. You don't sit behind your desk all day. So I think being physically present in one place, the technical program and the presentations are important, but I would say that at least 50% of the meeting is meeting up with people in the hallway, during lunch, during dinner, to discuss the current status of science, but also, at least in my case, a lot of times we meet people here from Europe to put European projects together, and we come to the MRS to do that because everybody is basically here. So it's a very good opportunity to put your next collaboration on paper.
I know this week you have a lot of traditional things and also the Career Center as well. Can you talk about that?
I remember this very well. This is where I made a personal relationship with a very well-known colleague from MRS, whose name I'm not going to mention now, but we have this relationship for many years, and It's a great opportunity for young people to get to know potential future employers, because the future employers are here. They are running around the hallway like we do.
So make yourself available and introduce yourself and get to know as many people as you can while you're here. Well, welcome and thank you for being here as MRS meeting chairs. I know you have a busy week ahead. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.